Welcome back into another episode of George in the Jungle, presented as always by Remington Tavern. Remington Tavern can be found at 8892 Glendale Milford Road, 45140, where they have their daily happy hour from 3 to 7 p.m., $5 bourbon whiskey Wednesdays, bottle cap bonanza Thursdays from 7 to 9 p.m. Check them out on Instagram at RemyTav Cincy. That's REMITAV Cincy with a Y, or follow them on Facebook. While you're there, be sure to grab an ice cold Cincy Light on tap. Because remember, we are coming at you from the Cincy Light Studios. But with that said, George,
Aaron,
you did have some computer issues, so
yes.
We've all had them. I had them last week. You got them this week. So here we are. We did make it. And thank you for the comment.
Thank you for the comment,
Marcus. Thank you for the comment, Marcus. The Red Legs are smoking hot. We will certainly get to the Reds. We did want to start with baseball, but maybe not the baseball that you quite thought. But Carrington Cross today was named an All-American by Perfect Game, and this makes him the fifth player. The first All-American for UC since Ian Happ in 2015, and the 10th All-American in program history. He was also named the first team All-Region and that makes him the fifth player since 2021 to receive that recognition. So certainly a lot of accolades given to Carrington Cross this season. Bear in mind, he was also named All-Conference, All Big 12. That was his third All-Conference selection at UC. So he racked up some awards while here, but big deal to be named an All-American.
Oh, God, yeah. No doubt about it. And, maybe bigger and better things are coming ahead for this guy because he's going to get his shot. And just, another bow added to the top of what was a really nice present for UC fans this spring. And that, it was a fun baseball season to watch. And certainly it was fun to watch him hit and do everything else the way he does, because he's really a good all-around player, good base runner. So it's great to see. And I don't know that release you were reading, did it list the other All-Americans? I'm just trying to rack my brain.
Yes.
Okay.
This release did come directly from UC.
This will bring back some memories, I guess. I don't know how far back.
Carrington Cross in 25, Ian Happ in 2015, as we mentioned, Lance Durham in 2009, Josh Harrison in 2008, Kevin Youkilis in 2000 and 2001, Steve Barhorst in 96, Tim Berman in 1974, Pat McGinn in 1967, Billy Wolf in 1965, and Bill Foul, F-A-U-L, not to be confused with the foul ball, 1961 and 1962.
How about that? And you would think Sandy Koufax pitched a year or something like that. You would think a name like that, but understandable why it didn't, because maybe the numbers weren't there before he went to play professional ball. But yeah, a name like that you would think is head of the class, head of the list, but that's not exactly how it always works. But still an impressive list of names, and some of the guys that were the more recent ones have gone on and done some pretty good things in professional baseball.
I did want to mention his stats that he finished with. By the way, he did hit 396, didn't finish quite at 400 after the tournament appearance, but 396 with 12 home runs, 50 RBI, 65 runs scored, 50 walks, 647 slugging, 526 on base percentage, which is the second highest ever in a season by a UC player, and his batting average finished as the 8th highest ever at UC. Also finishes third all-time in school history in runs scored with 221, fourth in hits with 260, fourth in home runs with 41, fourth in triples with 11, fifth in RBI with 170, third in total bases with 444, third in walks with 153, and fifth in stolen bases with 62, 219 career games, ranked 8th all time.
Wow. I mean, that's that's quite a broad list of accomplishments right there, and that runs the gamut of your offensive categories, and he's ranked in every one of them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nuts. What a career, and certainly what a season. And he's got a big reward today, and I think when they have that major league draft, he's going to get another reward then, and go on and hopefully do some good things in pro baseball. You never know how it's going to work out, but I like his chances.
I'd be shocked if he made it past. I can't see him not getting drafted in the first round.
Right.
But I guess second round, you'd be probably astonished if he makes it past the second round.
I would be. And that baseball draft is weird, and it's all about signability and all this. But he's one of those guys that they're going to be able to sign, because what else can he do, right?
Right. There's no other options unless you.
Right. The leverage isn't there, like with some of these younger guys and high school kids, which have pretty good leverage. And it's, generally, if you're spending a very high pick at all on a high school kid, you already know he's going to sign what you're going to offer him, because that gets worked out well in advance. And that's why sometimes, a lot of drafts in baseball, you see the most apparent best player available is not the guy that gets drafted.
Oddly enough. But yeah, we'll have plenty to talk about once his name does get called. Certainly looking forward to that. But kind of wanted to switch gears a little bit, stick to Cincinnati, at least the Bearcats. But the IPF, the soft opening is tomorrow, where they will have Chad and Keegan will be there. Unfortunately, I will not be able to make it. But they have the donors, some of the high spending donors coming in, and some of the news outlets getting to come in and cover it. So we'll get our first real glimpse, I would think, as far as I don't know how the picture thing is going to go with it being such a private event. If they're going to be allowed to freely take pictures or video, or how any of that's going to go. But we'll at least have boots on the ground reporting what this IPF is all about, with some firsthand accounts, as we'll have some guys there.
But I would imagine they'll let you pretty much show just about everything, right? I mean, this is something you want people to see.
Right.
Enough money's been behind it. I would think everything will be fair game, and they would want it out there. And so you're telling me you and I can't go tomorrow? We're not going to be able to get in on day one? What's this all about?
You can try right now with as much as sports and politics cross lines. You could try writing a letter to your congressperson. Maybe start there. Outside of that, you can contact Zach Stipe directly. I'm going to leave him alone. I feel like he's probably got enough on his plate right now.
Yeah, he doesn't need to hear from you or me.
But this is probably the most ambitious project, sports related, on campus since Fifth Third's renovation.
Right.
And perhaps
it's been fairly ambitious over the past 10 plus years, when they did the whole Nippert redo and the way that turned out, which I think is amazing. It's a lot of fun, and I love it just seems like they've got it really right now that they've opened up the visitor side back there with the whole, what they've done over there is amazing with that plaza. And then on the other side with TUC and everything, they've done a great job with that. Fifth Third Arena, we all love that. And I love the 2 360 concourses in there, and the upper deck and the lower. I just love it. It's easy for me to get around in and get to where I need to be. And I expect this thing's going to be top notch too. What a project. And it's with NIL and all this, when that came along, you're like, well, these facilities really matter that much? I think they will still matter. You're able to show kids a facility like this and say, we have the ability to make you better than you ever believed you could be, because everything is here. Everything you need, from the neck down or the neck up, is in one building. So that's great. And I think that's a decent selling point. The good news, maybe the best thing is lack of facilities can't be used against Cincinnati anymore. Yeah, you don't get 100,000 on Saturday to the game, and I don't know that many places are going to continue to get 100,000 on your regular Saturday games. But when it comes to being able to take you from, this mound of clay and mold you into a potential NFL prospect, it's there. And it sounds like they're all in on everything else with the support and everything else it takes to run a place like that. So I think it's a big deal, and I think it'll probably turn some heads. I know, again, you're competing, like NIL money might be a big part of it, but this is something, again, that will supplement that and can't be used against them.
Well, when you talk about just how much it can affect the different sports at Cincinnati, I mean, you're not talking about just football. You're talking about also, the baseball team can potentially get some reps in there. I would imagine there's probably some other sports that don't maybe come off the top of your head. Women's soccer potentially. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I would imagine every athlete that's recruited is going to be walking through there
for sure. You got the sports cafeteria and that kind of thing in there. So you're going to have the whole huge food situation. Plenty of offices in there. So there's just a lot of other things that are going to be affected outside of just football. Let's not kid ourselves. So it's just opening doors that weren't even dreamed to fit in that space, which is just crazy that they fit this mammoth building where they fit it.
Yeah, that was that's the best shoehorn job since Great American Ballpark, and building that and that, what they call that, the wedge side or something, when they put that in there. But yeah, you're right. I mean, that's a huge building, a huge facility, everything there, and they put it right on that corner, and it's a sweet spot. And I just I can't fathom it. And you talk about that lunch area or the eating area, the cafeteria area. Heck, when I was at Sander Hall, we had basketball players eating in the same cafeteria I did.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember one of them got in a fight over the final piece of chicken left in the cafeteria. That was interesting. I'm like, this chicken ain't that good to fight over, boys. You can have it. But yeah, it's just a far cry and just another step. And it shows the commitment overall to athletics that Cincinnati's had. And that has really, changed from really the late 80s on. And if an argument could be made, maybe the late 90s on. But when they, were able to get the Shoemaker Center first, way back when, and even before that, or around that same time, I guess it was just after that, and they had to make the decision on Nippert because part of it had been condemned and they had to redo some stuff. So, yeah, since the late 80s and really in the last, since, Bob Goines' Varsity Village vision, that's when it really, really started taking off. And here we are, 20-some years later with this.
Not enough can be said about how beautiful the building itself is, considering all the unique architectural pieces that exist already on campus. This is just another feather in the cap of the architecture on campus with the way that they've set it up with the accordion-like structure that still somehow is as functional as it is.
Right. Yeah. And it looks great to me. And I'm not a big architecture guy, but it looks like it looks a lot better than that building they're going to tear down on the other corner over there on the other side of campus. But I was just on campus Friday going to an event there at Baldwin and just looking, I mean, my God, and I'm looking at Old Kim and some other buildings I used to see, and just the way it's spruced up now. And heck, they may be redoing that building. They were working on one of it, but they've done it's incredible what that campus looks like now, and all the stuff available for these students, not just the student athletes, but I mean that rec center they put in, several years back is
Yeah.
I mean, I compare that to what we had, and it's just, I mean, we had the weights for the students when I went. It was just one room in a basement in Lawrence Gym, and it was brutal. I mean, it was a couple benches and some dumbbells and barbells, and that was about it. And now you go into that rec center, and they've got a lazy river and every cardio piece of equipment you would want. It just, it's quite a different experience now. And now I can see why, even though back then I spent probably 6 or 7 years in college, I can see why a kid would want to do that today.
it'll be interesting to see as this chapter comes to a close with this project and all of that, as it opens its doors and is fully functional, what the next project may be for this campus, because you got to figure maybe something is probably around the corner for either baseball, given its recent success, with maybe you're doing something with that stadium that doesn't currently exist and maybe we haven't even thought of, particularly in that left field area where you kind of have some room back there,
Yeah.
or just potentially with something for basketball. I know Chad keeps beating the drum that he thinks the next thing is going to be a practice facility for the basketball team, which I guess that's something that you need. I don't know.
Yeah. That's become somewhat of a thing, and some, there's some schools with some really nice ones, and that's something that they probably want to look into, because you're still competing. It's not quite the arms race maybe it was, as important, as since NIL came along. But I don't know. Nobody knows. Like now with this revenue share and how all that's going to work, and then maybe it does turn into an arms race again. I'm not sure, but that's certainly something, that they may be looking at, because their practice gym is still the one down in the basement, right? It's kind of like
So,
yeah, and it's okay. Look, it's fine, but that's, you're always looking to improve, and I'm sure they're gonna come up with something.
Yep. So it'll be, like I said, it'll be interesting to see what the next chapter is. But at least this chapter has come to a close, and with that, so does our segment on the University of Cincinnati. And we will move to the Reds, who are, as Marcus alluded to here in the chat, they are red hot. My goodness, that's now 5 in a row. You take home the Ohio Cup, first time probably in a while that you've been able to say that. And you love that Tito was able to do it against his old team. Will Benson had against. I wish Will Benson would play the Cleveland Indians more this season, because he is a menace against the Indians. Christian Encarnacion Strand, last week we talked about him coming back, and we talked about him having a hot start down in AAA. Well, that hot start continued right on up here in the when he got back in, and he had a hell of a series, including a walk-off. Today, Abbott gets a complete game, which I have no idea when the last complete game was pitched by a Cincinnati Red.
It was in Cleveland, 2021, and believe it
Wade
or
Miley?
not, Wade Miley. Yep. Is that
That was
crazy?
the last complete
That's their
game?
last 9-inning complete game. Their last 9 innings. They may have got.
Unbelievable.
Remember when they had those abbreviated double headers and stuff? When was that?
Yeah.
Was that COVID or after? I can't remember, but
I don't know the answer to that. But when you had like the 7-inning doubleheaders,
Yeah.
It probably was COVID.
But I heard John Sadak say it was the first 9-inning complete game by a Reds pitcher. And maybe, I don't know, maybe he's saying there was an 8-inning complete, or maybe there was a rain shortened. I don't know. But that's what he said. So that would be, how strange is it that Miley started last night in Cleveland, and then tonight in Cleveland, Abbott does that for the first time since a Reds player since Miley in 2021. So, impressive. And here's what I love about Abbott pitching the way he did tonight. He's coming off his
And
worst outing of the season, right?
yeah,
Yeah. And you're like, how will he bounce back from this? You just worry, like, is he going to be in a funk? How's he going to? And he comes out, throws over 100 pitches, completes the game. And it's like, you never see complete games in the majors anymore. Certainly
no,
not out of the Reds. And this was
110 pitches.
I'm a big fan of complete games, man.
I agree. It's almost a throwback at this point.
Yeah,
to,
it is. And
the
Abbott's
90s.
kind of a throwback pitcher too. I mean,
Yeah.
it kind of all fits. But yeah, you're right. It's a total throwback.
Getting back to Christian Encarnacion Strand, the only player this season to have 7+ hits, 3+ home runs, 6+ RBI, and a walk-off hit in a 3-game series. He had a hell of a series against the Diamondbacks.
Yes.
And that was one where you really needed to just get things right. And they certainly did that against the Diamondbacks.
And he did everything well. And I think, is that the game? Was it last night or was it the Sunday game where he made that diving? It was a foul ball, but he made a stretched out full body diving stop on a hopper down the third base line. But it was like, and he ran the bases well. He's showing some speed I didn't know he had. It's like he did everything right.
Let's go back to the fact that you just mentioned he was at third base, which he had come. They had almost stopped using him at third base, despite him coming up as both a third baseman and a first baseman. And they had used him largely at first base. Well, obviously, you kind of have a little bit of a glut right now at first base where you have a lot of guys. Right now, you don't have nearly as many options at third base. And him getting some of those third base reps and showing he hasn't really lost a beat defensively while doing so. And obviously having a monster series offensively. It's just, you needed this injection. We've been begging and pleading for who's going to be the guy to get things going for this team. Christian Encarnacion Strand comes up and does just that, while at the same time, Ellie is also elevating. He's starting to do things and starting to hit the ball well. TJ Friedel is also starting to hit the ball really well and has for roughly the last couple of weeks now. So you have all of these guys starting to make a push at the same time, and that's how you put together win streaks. That's how you put together winning series, and that's something that this team has really struggled to do. I'm not kidding you. I saw the score 1-0, and I was terrified, legitimately terrified, because Cincinnati has not done well in these one-score games, and tonight they go ahead and they cap it off, and Abbott obviously has a just ridiculous outing, and he's putting together a ridiculous season with a sub 1.5 ERA, which hat tip to you, sir.
And I hope I have this right tonight, but he walked the leadoff man in the ninth, right? In the bottom of the ninth. Walks the leadoff man. Then I believe he went 3-0 on the next batter, battled back, got a call on, it could have gone either way on the first strike, but battle back and then gets a double play ball that Ellie and McLean did a great job on that. Ellie started it, fielded it in the hole on the bounce, and flipped it to McLean. I mean, I didn't think they had a chance for two when it was hit, and they got it done, and that was huge. That was such a sweet double play, and those are the things they're doing in this winning streak that they weren't doing before. I mean, they struggled some in the field. They struggled some on the bases. Obviously, they've struggled at the plate. Now, all that stuff seems to be coming together. And for the most part, the pitching is still there. We talked about Abbott's outing Friday night was probably his worst of the season. Lodolo was just okay. Miley did what he could last night. But because they're scoring some runs now, they're able to offset when somebody maybe doesn't have their best. And that's something they couldn't afford before. I mean, let's face it, when early in the season for the first month and a half, Hunter Green would be out there, and if he gave up a run in 6 innings or whatever, you're like, God, they're not going to win.
Crazy talk.
And those pitchers had to feel like they couldn't allow a run because that's how it was. So now it's kind of like that takes a little pressure off the pitchers, and their hitting's been able to mask so-so performances on the mound by their starters. But that's the way it's supposed to be. You're supposed to be able to have one pick the other side up, and the hitting hasn't done that all year, and certainly the fielding hasn't either for the most part. And now in the past week, here it is. And hopefully it's not just a flash in the pan, that this is kind of they're starting to play up to who they can be. I hope that's the case. We shall see.
You also have Austin
I never
Hayes
get
coming
too
back.
optimistic. I'm always too optimistic on the Reds, and so I just don't want to do it again, but I will.
You also have Austin Hayes coming back from the IL. Who is going to remain? Who will be knocked off the roster when that happens remains to be seen. I have two names that pop off the top of my head that you and I have both mentioned, still scratching our heads as to why they're even on this roster. But you also have, by the way, Rhys Hines doing Rhys Hines things down in AAA. Why he's not given any playing time whatsoever up at this level is still beyond me.
Yeah.
For the names that are Hampson and Connor Joe,
right,
I am beside myself. Not to mention the fact that you still have Matt McLain struggling at the plate. I'm sure you could find a way to maneuver, move some guys around, and figure out how to get somebody else at second base that isn't Matt McLain. Maybe give him a day or two off, get his mind right. Maybe there's something going on where he needs to take an IL stint. I don't really know. Not that I trust this medical staff, and we'll get to that in a second because I have a whole nother tirade on that. But I don't know. I feel like you've got to get Connor Joe and Hampson right back on out of here on the same train they came in on, and figure out a way to get Rhys Hines and Austin Hayes injected and getting. I'm not saying start Rhys Hines every day, but you've probably got to figure out a way to get his bat in there.
Yeah, and I know they like the fact that he's still relatively young, so they want him playing, getting a lot of at bats and doing. But I do get your point. I can see a little bit of both sides of this, but I think I would rather have him on the roster than a couple of the guys we talked about. Connor Joe and the dude they picked up off the streets. But we'll see. I just think he would be better served up here, especially when he's doing what he's doing and given the Reds. Thank goodness when Fraley came back, he's hitting the ball, right? Or there would really be a crying need for someone to help out there. So I don't know. I don't have an answer to why Hines is still down there and didn't get a shot back up here with all the other stuff. Hayes, I guess, did some running today, and hopefully if he feels good tomorrow, we could see him, with the team on Friday. And they got some other things cooking too. Chase Burns just got moved up. So
he did. He's up in AAA, and you also have Marte right around the corner as well. Marte should be back
I wonder
here.
when he'll be back. I didn't see a target date for him, but
not a date yet. But they're saying at some point in the next several weeks, which who knows what several means. But obviously, you hope that's sooner than later. As again, just another bat who, when he went down, he was swinging really well. So you hope that he comes back here and is able to do that right away again.
And then you got to cross your fingers on Hunter Green too. And
that's what I want to get to.
Here we go.
Yesterday, it was reported he was going to LA for a second medical opinion on his back and groin. Why does Hunter Green need a second opinion, you ask? Because it probably wasn't right when he came back from the IL the first time. That all said, he doesn't trust this medical staff. And why should he? He's been around to see plenty of gaffes by this medical staff. And you're talking about a guy who's already had Tommy John surgery, who's gone through that with this medical staff. He is probably your most valuable player, not named Ellie De La Cruz at this point. And you've got to figure out a way to keep him as healthy as you can. And I don't see this medical staff with enough competence to do that. Clearly, he doesn't either.
Well, I think anyone dealing with something like that is smart to get a second opinion anyway. I have some doctors that I really, really trust that are, you know, doing a surgery on me or something, but I still get a second opinion on it just to check. But this probably isn't that innocent. It's probably, Hunter's people, maybe not Hunter himself, but his agent and other people around him. Like, no, 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 no. We want to make sure another guy we trust is getting a good look at this, and we're not going to, screw this thing up for the entire season, which I hope they haven't done. I don't think it's that serious, but I didn't really know about this back thing. I thought it was all more just groin related, and then this back thing's in there too. And so I don't know. Are the two related? Is it two separate issues? That's what they got to find out. And yes, that's something a medical staff with a major league team ought to be able to figure out without flying him all the way across the country to get that second opinion. But Hunter, from being from out there, and I don't know where his representation is, but they probably know someone out there that they really, really trust and just want to, double check this thing. And we'll see. I don't think there will be any procedure or anything, but I don't know. We'll see. Maybe he stays out there for a while and works with whoever this person is. I don't know, but I understand your frustration with it because it seems like it happens way too often with these Reds players.
Well, you still wonder if Matt McLean at this point is right. You still wonder if Spencer Steer is right. You see Christian Encarnacion Strand finally getting back to the player we thought he was going to be last year prior to the hand injury, but they totally misplayed that one. So I feel like there's, no pun intended, but plenty of red flags everywhere right now with this medical staff. And it's really hard for me to buy anything that they're selling.
Well, Steer seems to be rounding in the form and doing things better than what he was earlier in the season.
It's getting there.
Yeah. But Matt McLean, no. Now, what's weird, and they were talking about this on the broadcast the other day, and I don't think it was about McLean. I think it was about another player talking about and I think it was Steer, and then it morphed into McLean. Just about how these shoulder injuries, you never know. You never know how long they take to get back from, and
these
all that
impingements.
Exactly. Like, I don't know what that is, and I don't know why it can't be fixed with surgery or anything else. But we had Mark Sheldon on right before the season talking about that. And the opinion is it's better not to get a surgery and rehab it and learn how to maybe do things differently sometimes, because I don't understand how surgery can't fix some things, but especially, orthopedic things, but apparently that's the case.
It's wild. I don't know what's happening with any and all of that, but I do like to see them winning. And we were getting to a point last week where we still weren't sure what they were going to be able to do. Here they are tonight, pulling off game 5 of a 5-game win streak. And right now, as far as the standings go, Cincinnati sits at 2 games above 500, 6 games back on the Chicago Cubs, which is good enough for 4th place, but they are only a half game back on Milwaukee and 2 games back on St. Louis. All said,
there's plenty of time getting the mix and all that. Yeah.
As far as the wild card goes, again, you got Milwaukee and St. Louis above you. And that's really about it until you get to San Diego, where you're 3.5 games behind them. So you're certainly in the mix right there, as San Diego holds that last spot for the wild card. So obviously it's far too early to be really concerned with wild card, but you're certainly still in the mix there. So you're not fighting an uphill battle in June trying to figure out how the hell you're going to turn this ship around. It feels like, George, we should be far worse than 35-33.
It does. I mean, it really, the fact that they're 2 games above 500, honestly, and I knew, they won 4, and I look at the records and stuff, but I kind of forgot exactly where they were. And when I saw earlier today, oh, they're one game over 500 now, because it has felt so bad. And some of that maybe is expectations we had with Francona coming in and some other things. But they're in an okay spot right now. Should they be better? Yeah, we would hope so. But given if I look down the list of batting averages and other things with the Reds, I would think it could be a lot worse right now. But so we give credit where it's due, and maybe Francona has him playing the way he wants now. And I also wonder about Francona if he's got more Ohio Cups than any other person that was a manager in this series. I'm gonna have to look that one up.
Possibly.
Yeah,
Certainly the only person with one for each team.
right. Yeah, so he's well versed in this Ohio Cup thing. I'm gonna have to look that up later and see where he. I mean, it's got to be right because they just had the thing that didn't start till interleague play, so I'm guessing he's probably the man.
I did see a stat the other day. I believe the number was 14 times that Cincinnati has been at 500. 14 separate times their record has been at 500 this season. Yeah.
See, that's the problem, though. So here we are. They're 2 games above 500. They got the Indians again, or the Guardians, excuse me, again. And then what happens this weekend? You go see a first-place team in Detroit, right?
Yep.
I know that's going to be interesting. So hopefully they can carry this over into there and maybe win a series up there, which would be huge. But that's the thing. They get the 500, they get a game over, and then here comes 4 straight losses, or 4 losses in 5 games, or so. That's been how it. Every time I feel like they're about to get going, they don't. So we'll see if this is another false alarm. I hope not. I hope they continue to play winning baseball the rest of the way. Given the status of a lot of teams in baseball, the Reds ought to be able to do that.
It'll be.
But maybe they're just a 500 team. I don't know.
At least they're interesting. At this point, I think we can say that. It was far easier last season. It was far easier last season to love this team. Right now, it's difficult for me as a giant Reds fan to love this team because of how jaded I am, thanks to ownership and the medical staff. That said, you keep winning, and winning fixes everything.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll make you feel a lot better about the medical staff and ownership if they start winning.
I wouldn't go that far, but
yeah, I wouldn't either. I know.
That all said, I don't have any more on the Reds, but the Cincinnati Bengals.
You want to talk about ownership?
Oh my God!
You really want to talk about ownership?
I don't know how you're feeling right now about Shamar Stewart. I think Shamar Stewart put on a hero's cape today.
Yeah.
And I think he was a superhero saying, fuck the man. And I don't think he's in the wrong here.
I don't either. Now that more has come out, now that there is more in the light, because originally we didn't have any idea what it was. It was just like language in a contract. Well, what language? And I guess what? I can't believe the Bengals. Well, yeah, I can't believe the Bengals. Go ahead.
We should talk about his quote for those who are watching that didn't know or listening. He said this following his interaction at his locker, talking about his contract. He said, "I'm 100% right. Y'all," talking about the Bengals, "just want to win arguments more than you want to win games." And I don't think he's wrong, because here you have 2 guys, not one, not just him, but also Trey Hendrickson, who you just cut Jermaine Pratt this week, by the way. You've got $30 million in cap space doing God knows what with, probably collecting interest somewhere. And you just need to get both of them onto the field. So you need to sign your first round pick, do what it takes, sign him for, get this language that you're trying to make him a guinea pig for that no other team is using in the entire NFL, by the way. Throw that shit out the window and get your guy on the field. He's losing valuable reps that can get him ready. And as far as Trey Hendrickson goes, you got $30 million. Get him on the field too.
That's not true. There are other teams in the league using this language. The Eagles are using this language. The 49ers are using this language. There's 2 or 3 others that are using this language. But all of those teams are offsetting the language with more guaranteed money up front. So there is give and take. There is, yes, we understand. We are putting some language in this that is not favorable to you. So to compensate for that, we are going to make up for it by paying you more money up front. It's a give and take.
There's got to be give and take in this, and
The Bengals just take.
Right.
They don't want to give.
That's the problem.
They have no interest in it being a fair negotiation. They just want to say, we're doing this and suck it up. You're the guinea pig. You're the first guy. And if you don't like it, tough. And it's bullshit. That's the only way I can put it.
Yeah, I mean, you can't just take something from someone that's always been there and not expect to give something back. And when this thing first started, I was kind of giving the first round pick the side eye. Like, come on, bud.
Yeah.
Every other guy's on the field. What's in your – and then you find out, oh, yeah, there is something. There is a good reason. And, you know, he's getting solid advice, I would say, and it's a shame. I think the kid wants to be on the field. I think he wants to get his career started off in the right on the right foot, and he seems like, you know, he seems like he's on top of everything. You know, God bless him for having the stones and talk to the media today and say what he said. It was very interesting, and I think you can't draft a guy like they did and fill an important role on a team like they need, and then start it off like this. Like, this is not the year or the time or the player to do this with. I don't think there's ever a year or a time or player to do this with. You know, there's been a precedent set on how these contracts are, and generally there's never an issue with getting these guys signed, these draft picks, and getting them going in the right direction. But now all of a sudden there is. It just seems very peculiar to me. And for someone who started off a month ago, like I said, giving this guy the side eye, I totally see it now. And I agree with him. I think he's on solid ground here. I don't know how it ends up, but I know if I'm running an NFL franchise and I've already got my top, you know, sack specialist sitting out in the contract dispute, and I bring this guy in, I'm not going to start another dispute, but they did.
Well, so, and I want to talk about that. But before I get down that road, you had the stars who are, he mentioned in his interview at his locker today that the other stars on the team are telling him he's doing the right thing and to continue going down the path that he is on. So he's clearly got support in the locker room for what he's doing. Someone else mentioned that the Bengals are clearly addicted to drama, off-season drama, because this could easily be in the rear view, but instead you're just continuing to kick this can down the road. And when you drafted him, what was the biggest knock on him? The biggest knock on him was he could not finish. So here you have a guy who has struggled to finish getting the sack, not just the pressure, because pressure has not been an issue. It's getting the sack that has been the issue. And he could be learning from a guy, a grizzled vet like Trey Hendrickson, who excels in getting to the quarterback. And instead, you have Trey Hendrickson isn't even there at mandatory camp. So he's taking the fines that Zach Taylor's already texted him about. He's taking the fines, and you got a rookie who can't be in there learning, soaking everything up from Trey Hendrickson like a sponge because you can't get out of your own way. It's maddening as a fan of this team.
It really is. It's just not, you know, in what should be a season and still probably will be highly anticipated because of the firepower you have on offense. Still worried about that interior of the line, but we'll see. I still think they put themselves in a spot here, but they haven't done anything really other than they brought back B.J. Hill and brought back some other guys, but what have they done to help the defense? And what was the biggest problem last year? I mean, that's just it's mind-boggling to me.
You brought in a new coordinator, so again, Trey Hendrickson hasn't played in this system. Not that it's who knows how different it is. We don't know that as laymen, but you're missing out on learning the new system, Trey. I get it that you're just a heat-seeking missile trying to get to the quarterback on every single play. So how much do you really have to learn as an edge guy anyway? I get that, but you're still missing out on reps within the system for things like stunts and different things in that regard, like the different things that you can do to camouflage the defense.
I mean, let's say Shamar Stewart gets on the field and just is lighting it up in his first couple of years in the NFL. What's he thinking about him seeing the other sack guy, the veteran, and what's going on there on top of what he's going through now? And he said it out loud when he said that about they're more interested in winning, contracts or winning arguments about contracts and winning games. He's already figured it out, and he's been here a month. I mean, that would spook me as an owner or an executive of that team that, my first round draft pick is already saying stuff like that. It didn't take him long. And, that's been the knock around here.
Yeah, Paul Daner said
time, but it just seems like it's really bouncing around this time.
Paul Daner said the most notable thing that he said today was it's something very simple to fix. It's kind of disappointing, talking about Shamar Stewart. And Stewart went on to say, I can't say what I really want to say. It's their contract. They can do what they want with it. So he's clearly frustrated. He wants to be out on the field. Just get to the finish line.
I guarantee
get out of your own way.
Right. I guarantee you he thought this would be resolved within days. Right?
Because it should be.
Yes.
And I know that it feels like almost that the status quo for the Bengals is to get the first round pick all the way down to July before he ever sees the field. It certainly feels that that's the way that they do it more often than not in the past.
Well, oh my God, back before they had these standard slots and stuff, oh my God, it was pulling teeth to get the first round pick signed. And it's back to that again. And it's like, are you kidding me? I mean, I know you can't pay everybody. And as Mike Brown said, you only got the pie and, well, God dang it, there's still got to be plenty left in that pie. And this, I don't know. I don't understand how you do the off-season contracts you did with Chase and Higgins, and you did Burrow the year before, and it's like, so what are you doing? Like, you spent that money, but you're going to scrimp over here. That's going to cost your team a chance at the playoffs or cost your team a chance at home field advantage. I mean, come on. Either you're in or you're out. I thought they were in, but now I wonder.
Who else do you have left to pay is the next question. Right now, the big guys are all tied up. You're good. So just get it
Except
done.
for Trey.
Correct. But again, you cleared the space with Pratt.
Right.
You cut Pratt, which, by the way, they did Pratt a little bit dirty, given what he has done for this team. If you planned on cutting him the entire time, you tried to trade him. I get that. Why did you wait so long to where it's hard for him to find a spot? Because lots of guys, until somebody goes down with an injury, I guess.
I think he might find a spot right up by 74. I think he may be back with Lou. That's my guess. That's my guess. And then, they're going to be slotting a rookie in starting next to Logan Wilson. I hope this kid is what he's cracked up to be. Seems like, but you're already, spotting a rookie there. Then you're banking on a bunch of guys in the secondary and at corner that are coming back from injury. I know they have a lot of belief in them and all of that, but if you ask me, and Jeff Hobson told us, and I've heard assistant coaches say this, that their corners and their DBs are the deepest spot on the team, but it's not the deepest spot on the team with results. Maybe results when they were out there for a little bit, or when they were healthy, but it hasn't been. You don't get a real large body of work sometimes in the NFL when looking at players, but none of them have a real long track record of success. So I'm skeptical of that as well. So if you're lacking pass rushers and you're lacking experience in the secondary, they may have to put up 40 a game to compete this year.
Well, we mentioned Trey Hendrickson was not there today. BJ Hill was also not working today. Dax Hill, another Hill there, not working today. And then, of course, Shamar Stewart.
Yeah,
that
I'm not
all
sure what's
said,
up with the Hills. Didn't they? It was BJ like that.
He was in a boot.
Boot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That said, today's defensive unit was reported as the Miles Murphy starting on the line next to TJ Slayton, who Joe Burrow said he's been really stepping up as a defensive leader vocally, which he's only been here several weeks, several months, I guess.
Right.
Chris Jenkins and Joseph Osai, that rounds out your defensive line. And then you got Turner and Cam Taylor-Britt, DJ Turner and Cam Taylor-Britt at your corners. Josh Newton in the nickel. I imagine Dax Hill would probably be there if he was healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Logan Wilson and Demetrius Knight at linebacker. Demetrius Knight, by the way, he was asked today about his contract dispute. Some people are reporting he has signed his contract. Some people reporting himself even today kind of alluding to the fact that he has not yet signed his contract, but he's out there practicing and he had to do something that he thought was right for him. He told his agents, I'm still going to go forward. So I don't know where the truth is, somewhere in the middle, maybe. But maybe they're further along in the contracts. I don't really know. But he's out there practicing for whatever that's worth. And Geno Stone and Battle there at the safety spots. So about what's expected, I guess.
Yeah, I just I hope they get Hendrickson done or in camp. I don't know where that's going to end up, and I hope they get this whole draft pick drama stuff. And if they're, if the same thing's going on with the second round pick, they're going to have to deal with that too.
Just get it done. This is silly at this point. It's just silly. That all said, our boy, I think we can call him that right now, Jermaine Burton.
Yeah.
He is making plays. TJ Hushmanzada was there, and he's been talking about how he has all the tools, all the intangibles, everything that you want, all the tangibles even, everything that you want. And he just happy to see the turn that he is making. He also has cut his hair short. He says that it is a sign of the new leaf that he has turned, a sign of the maturity that he's trying to show his teammates, trying to show who he wants to be on the straight and narrow. So he has cut his hair, and it's very symbolical in meaning to him. And look, I don't care. Just go out there and, first of all, show up to practice when you're supposed to be there and go and make the plays. And he's doing all of those things. I love it. I love where his attitude is at. I love what the other guys are saying about his attitude. And I think that it shows that I don't think any of it is just lip service.
No, it feels like, he had the ultimate come to Jesus meeting last year late in the season with somebody, and it was probably with Zach and Duke Tobin and his position coach. And maybe some of the players are like, look, dude, this is it. This is it. First of all, you've already blown a pretty golden opportunity. He was going to start that week when he missed practice, missed the walkthrough the day before the game and didn't go on the trip. He was going to play. And that is a missed golden opportunity for a young guy. And so I'm rooting for him. I hope all this, I'm glad, quite honestly, sometimes you got to cut your hair when you want to turn over a new leaf and just look in the mirror at somebody else because you're kind of pissed off at the guy you used to be. You need a change, and sometimes it has to be a little bit physical. Obviously, most of it's mental, and hopefully he gets it. I mean, I root for him. I hate to see people throw those kind of opportunities away because of stupid stuff. If you don't make it because you're not good enough, but you did everything, okay, we can all accept that. But when you have that much talent, and obviously he's got some talent and then some, you kind of hate to see people waste that because, he's going to be sitting like an old man like I am someday and wonder what the hell was I thinking and regret the hell out of it. And I hope he doesn't get to that point. I hope this is all good. And, if he does turn into another weapon, my goodness, they are loaded in that department.
Yeah, we've seen Dylan Fairchild looking good on the offensive line at guard, left guard, I believe. The right guard position, though, has still had some question marks.
Well, I'm sure, they brought in the free agent, hopefully to start, but we'll see. But at least there's competition. I think there should be competition.
Lucas Patrick.
Yep, I met him a little over a week ago. I met him, I think. Seems like a great guy too, and I wish him the best. But yeah, I don't mind having competition and things that aren't etched in stone, especially at this point. But even in training camp, I'm cool with guys being up in the air and knowing I got to perform if I'm going to be the guy running out of that tunnel with the starters on Sunday afternoon. So I'm good with that. Let them compete.
Well, your boy Trags today said initially after taking part in 11 drills, Lucas Patrick without his helmet, replaced by Cody Ford at right guard, and Patrick had a sleeve and a brace on his leg. Left leg. Well,
I hope everything's cool and it's nothing serious. It's early, so hopefully plenty of time to recoup. And the important thing for a guy like that, obviously, he wants to get, it's a new line coach, a new team, all that. He wants to get all that down. But as a veteran, I think he'll be fine. Get him ready for training camp, and he'll be good to go.
Well, if not, there are still some names out there that I would not mind seeing in stripes at that guard position.
Yeah,
so there's about 3 that you could make an argument for.
Mm-hmm.
But I digress. We'll see what happens. You got 7 more days before we talk about the Bengals again, so there's plenty of things that this Brown family can do with contracts to make us scratch our heads and leave us frustrated and angry. So we'll see what happens. That all said, FC Cincinnati, George.
Back in action this week.
They were off, right?
Yep, they've been off since end of May. And they're back in action this Saturday against New England at New England.
Yep.
Still second place because everybody's been off. So they'll get back at it. And then high school baseball, we got the state Final Four in Columbus and Lakota West pulling the 3-2 upset over Moeller last week. Mild upset. I mean, Moeller is loaded, but Lakota West had a heck of a season. So Lakota West is in the Division I Final Four and will meet Lewis Center Olentangy on Saturday in the state semifinals. And then also Baden in Division III, Indian Hill Division IV, Lynchburg Clay in Division V, all in the state Final Fours in Ohio. And Highlands made it to the Sweet 16 in Kentucky, but lost in the Sweet 16 round in an extra inning affair against South Warren. So we're all done in Northern Kentucky for high school baseball, but big weekend in Ohio coming up.
I did want to mention you got off FC Cincinnati so quickly. I wasn't expecting that. Cincinnati is plus 165 in this matchup against New England, who's plus 155. The draw being plus 240. So it's a very close odds there as far as who's going to pull off this game. That said, you hope that FC Cincinnati fares better than the U.S. men's team did in a friendly against Switzerland, I believe, as they lose 4-0. Gross. Terrible game.
Ugly final.
It was that score at halftime. So, yuck. But also wanted to say Anthony Richardson apparently is going to get a second opinion on something going on with him and his injury. Des Ritter is in Indianapolis, and he has been working out there. So you may see Des to Alec Pierce this season, and that would be something.
That would be awesome. Well, I hope he hooks on up there and gets some PT, and maybe we'll see that. That'd be great. I know this. He'll be glad to see Alec lining up at wide receiver if he's in a game because,
hell yeah,
got that chemistry, and boy, they certainly made the most of it at UC.
Yep, and he was no stranger to Anthony Richardson either, by the way, Alec Pierce.
Yeah.
So, in any case, I think that's going to wrap things up for us, George.
Yep, I think
thank you to all of us who joined us here live. Thank you to those who are listening to us on the podcast format. Be sure to check out Remington Tavern while you're there. Get yourself a Cincy Light at 8892 Glendale Milford Road, 45140, where they have their daily happy hour from 3 to 7 p.m. $5 bourbon whiskey Wednesdays, bottle cap bonanza Thursdays from 7 to 9 p.m. Check them out on Instagram at RemyTavCincy or follow them on Facebook. But for George Vogel, I'm Aaron Smith. We'll be back here next week to talk all of your Cincinnati sports.
Thank you, Aaron.